Hello and welcome to this AV LAN review of the Onkyo TXNR828 home cinema receiver. We're going to talk to you a bit about this receiver, show you its setup menus, its connections, and we're also going to tell you what we think it sounds like.
So this is the 828 from Onkyo. It replaces last year's TX-NR828. And it's very similar looking. They haven't changed the styling. A very clean front panel, and they hide all the controls at this level. When you go up from the model below, the 727, you get a much bigger chassis, much bigger unit, and a lot of the controls are hidden behind a flap on the front panel. Now there are a few feature changes from last year's model. Gone is the HQV scaling, and gone is the Odyssey XT32. You now only get that on the model above this, the 929, but it still does have Odyssey EQ room setup. But the build quality remains very good for this price point. It's a very sturdy machine, and the sound quality hasn't detracted from last year's. It's still a very good, clean and detailed sound, and warmer than a lot of sort of Japanese manufacturers' amps. It's not a bright sound, which I personally do like from Onkyo. Power-wise, it's rated, they claim, 180 watts per channel with 7 channels of amplification. But that's a slightly erroneous rating, because they say it's only with 1 channel driven, which of course you're never going to just have it 1 channel driven, and only at a certain frequency, which is 1 kHz. So slightly over-egging the power there. It's in reality a lot less. But it does look nice. It's got that backlit illumination around the volume control. You can turn that off. It's an aluminium front panel with a turned aluminium volume control, so it's got a luxurious sort of feel to it. And this flap behind the front here, you can see, hides things like the headphone socket and various different buttons, things for the zone. And one of the things this has that the previous model didn't have is it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth actually built into the unit, so you don't have to pay any extra for a Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth dongle. You can set the amplifier up from the front panel here. You've got the setup menu, the home menu, all accessible very quickly here from the front, and the USB input for the front, and also the HDMI, which is also an MHL input to connect to an Android phone. So with a USB to HDMI adapter, you can do that if it's got MHL. So the styling here, it hasn't changed for a few years, but big improvement on what the Onkyo used to be, quite curvy, and now it's that clean look. You get THX Select 2, it has ProLogic 2Z and Dolby True HD, DTS HD, the Odyssey Multi EQ, Odyssey DSX, the QDO video processing. It does do 4K scaling as well, and 4K video pass-through, and it has 8 HDMI inputs. And like I mentioned, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built into the box, nothing extra to have to pay for. You can also plug it in wired as well for Ethernet. You don't have to use Wi-Fi, and that is the preferred connection. So the back panel, it's fairly nicely laid out, although not as cleanly laid out as when you go higher up the Onkyo models with regard to the speaker terminals. But quite a lot of connections here. A lot of manufacturers now cutting back on what inputs they have. You can see there it's got those aerials. We're not sure if they're both just for the Wi-Fi or the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, but that's an improvement on the lower models. Have just got an aerial built in, so you should get a bit better range on the Wi-Fi and a bit better signal strength if you're quite far away from your router. As well as having the 8 HDMI inputs, 7 of which are on the back panel and the 1 on the front, it also has twin HDMI outputs, 2 optical and 3 coaxial digital ins, though no output. Still got component video input, because you might have something like a Wii or an older Xbox, so it's useful for that, and it will convert that signal to HDMI. It has a good set of pre-outs as well here, so if you want to add a power amplifier to it, you can do. You don't have to use its internal amp, so if you want to improve it for stereo, you could buy a standalone power amp, put it on the front channels, away you go, you've got an improvement. It has pre-outs for the zones 2 and 3. If you're using all 7 channels in your main room, you might want to add a power amp so that you can power some speakers in another room, say like a kitchen. And if you're only using 5.1, you can actually reassign those extra 2 amplifiers that are spare to a Zone 2 output. Now in the back, the terminals do come with little plastic bungs here in the back, and if you prise them out like that, you can use a banana plug. We recommend doing this over using bare wire because all those connections are quite close together, so it can become a bit of a mess to do, and in time the connections will oxidize up. You also risk, when you're using bare wire, the cables can become, the actual cables, unless you actually solder them up, they can become frayed and touch the chassis, which will lead to a short circuit, or touch each other and lead to a short circuit. So you have to be quite careful, and you can see there you really need to twist them, otherwise that will happen every time.
Now we're going to take the lid off this mid-range Onkyo receiver and show you its internal components.
So this is what's inside. You can see it's got some fairly hefty capacitors there. This main sort of green board, that's the main brains of the receiver. That has all the audio processing, the video processing, micro processing chips on there that do all the work, all the decoding. And then just in front of those 2 big round capacitors there, these are all the actual amplification modules, and they're bolted to this rather big aluminium heatsink, which is quite high quality for this price point. We think it seems quite well made. A lot of them can be quite thin and flimsy, the heatsink, so you think, well, they're probably not that good at actually dissipating the heat, whereas it has a big fan on top just in case it does get too hot, but ordinarily that doesn't run, and it probably would only ever kick in at high volumes, in which case you're never going to hear it. Because it's a larger diameter as well, they're generally quieter than smaller diameter fans, so they run at a lower RPM. You see everything on the front panel, there's an extra sheet of metal there. That prevents leakage from things like the FL display getting into the creating noise that can interfere with the actual amplification modules. So although it does have a pure audio mode, that's the transformer, so quite big, quite chunky. It's there, they call it high current power supply, and you see all the power supply stuff is all kept separate from the amplification, and the processing modules as separate as they can. There are those big smoothing capacitors there as well. And there's more boards underneath that main HDMI board. There's more stuff in it, so it is fairly packed out. But you can see there's a little bit of space in here, and that's probably because it shares the chassis with the higher 929 model, which has an extra 2 channels of amplification. So there's a bit of extra space in there for that. Now the setup menus. In the HDMI, you can adjust the resolution of the output, and you can see there if you wanted it to scale to 4K you could, or you can just get it to pass through what's coming in. Now have a play around, but the chances are the scaler now, if you've got a fairly new television, the scaler that's built into your television will be fairly good. This doesn't have the HQV scaler like previous models, so it's hit and miss whether this will be any better. It actually has so many inputs on it that you might run out of which ones to assign the HDMIs, because you've got 8 of them, but you could even assign one to a turntable, which I'm yet to see a HDMI output turntable, but there you go, you can do it. So these are the speaker settings, and there's quite a lot. You can change the impedance for your speakers, and you can also biamp your speakers, the front speakers. So what this means, if you're only using the amp in a 5.1 configuration in your main room, and your front speakers are bi-wireable, you can actually assign the 2 spare amps, the 6th and 7th amps inside the receiver, to power those as well, but separate treble and bass. So you need some bi-wire cable, or run a separate length of cable, and then you have 2 of the amps on the treble and 2 of the amps on the bass for each speaker. So you're using 4 amps in total. And this improves the sound quality, so you've got more power to your front speakers, and especially if they're big floor-standing speakers, you will get better sound quality as well. So it's just worth doing if you're not using them for Zone 2 and you're not using it at 7.1 to biamp your front speakers. You can set all the different levels up here. It produces a test tone, the distances. You can also adjust the equalization manually. We don't recommend doing this. It's not very hi-fi, but the facility's there, and also of course you can do this sort of thing with the Odyssey EQ as well. But in an ideal world, your speakers should sound good with your with the receiver, you shouldn't need to do that, but it can be done, especially if you're building up a system bit by bit. You might have a different make of center speaker to what you've got with your front speakers. Then there is some use for equalizing it, but ideally if they're the same make all round, you shouldn't need to change them, and if they match your receiver well, you shouldn't need to change them. There's different settings here for each of the different sound modes. These aren't things you need to do straight away, out of the box, but they're things that you might go in at a later date and just adjust. You might find that when it's a DTS track, I find this sometimes, that the subwoofer's maybe mastered a little bit too low, and so you can go in there and you can boost it for DTS so that DTS has always got a little bit more sub volume than Dolby Digital, or vice versa. It's up to you to play around. Now you can also adjust the synchronization of this audio and the vision. So if you find that they don't match up, you can delay the sound. And this happens especially if you've got a television that's got a lot of processing switched on. It can delay the picture, so you need to delay the sound as well. And you can do that on an input by input basis. You can also adjust each of the inputs. You can, with its name, you can change it to whatever you want. So that's defaults to BD, DVD, but you could just change it to Blu-ray, or maybe the model number if you're a Blu-ray player. If it's on the game input, you could change it to Xbox or PS3 or maybe even PS4. So you could change all that around, do it any way you want. You can select where the audio comes from, whether it comes from HDMI or if you've assigned an optical or a coaxial, you can adjust it to that as well. So if you want to override it because it will default to getting the audio from HDMI. You can select here what the listening mode preset. So for example, on a CD player, you'd want it to always be stereo. You can set that so that happens every time you click across the CD. You can change the way the volume's displayed, whether it's displayed in from 0 up to, I think, 80, or you can have it going in a minus figure. We recommend that. That's the relative THX setting. And what that does is it means it displays it minus all the way up to 0 and then plus from 0. And 0 dB is full volume, full amplification. So beyond that, you risk damaging your speakers and the receiver. You can damage any amp and any speakers and vice versa if you overload the amplifiers by increasing the volume above what it's capable. So you're amplifying the inputs signal more than 0 dB is what that means. So normally you wouldn't go beyond it unless you've got a very quiet signal. In the HDMI settings, there's various different things you can adjust here. One of the things you can switch on is HDMI CC. That allows the receiver to communicate with other CC devices like a television or a Blu-ray player, and it can do things like turn the power on and off for the different devices. In reality, it doesn't always work very well. The compatibility isn't great for something that's meant to be a standard. So if you're having any kinds of problems with HDMI, we always recommend turning that off. But if it does work with your particular brand of television, it can be quite useful in that you can turn your receiver on and it turns the TV on, and vice versa. You have various different network settings here. You can manually adjust the IP addresses. You can set a static IP address. That's sometimes useful. It makes things like control apps start up quicker, and sometimes you might have problems where it doesn't get an IP address from your router. This is if you want to go back to the initial setup, which is how it defaults when you get out of the box, and it goes through basically all these menus one by one. You can make it do that again, and it does the Odyssey setup process as well. It will default as soon as you plug the microphone in for the Odyssey to doing the Odyssey setup, so you can always do it that way as well. Here's quite a clever feature from Onkyo, is that the remote control is two-way, and it can actually receive codes back from the receiver. You can search a built-in database for different brands of, here we're doing televisions, find the one that works with yours, and it will send all the codes that it's got to the remote control, so you can control other devices using the Onkyo remote. And it's quite handy. It means you don't have to look them up in a code book, which is what you normally do with most manufacturers. Here, finally, you can lock the setup. So if you've got it all just how you want it and you don't want anyone playing with it, you can lock the setup so people can't adjust things and fiddle around with them. So this is the home menu. This is how you get into the setup menu, and a few other things like the Insta Preview. Now what the Insta Preview does is it shows you a little thumbnail of what's going on the various different inputs overlaid on top of what's behind it. So you can see here, you can see what's on the Blu-ray input. You can see on the game input, we've got a PlayStation there and an Xbox on the PC input. And it doesn't show you in real time, it shows you a little tiny sort of few frames at a time. The background image you've got there, it's just our capture card is not very good, so it's not capturing it at full frame rate. You can also update the firmware, you can jump to all the different network things, and also straight to USB. Now this is the quick setup menu. It's labelled Q on the remote control, and it gives you sort of various different things about what's going on each input, as well as that another little thumbnail there, like the Insta Preview for the different inputs. And it just gives you a little bit more information about what's going on and a few sort of basic settings. So if you want to adjust the bass and treble, the subwoofer level, the center level, that sort of thing, without going into the main setup menu. Same for the video, you can adjust the picture mode. We'd always leave it just on the default, but you can change it. And it gives you extra information, so it shows you what frequency the audio is coming in at, it shows you the different screen resolutions that's both coming in and out through the HDMIs. And you can see all the different listening modes as well. Now this is its network menu, and you can see here that you have various different options. This is the internet radio function. They've previously used VTuner, but they've moved away now to tune in. Same sort of idea though. If you're used to the VTuner, you can browse by genre, you can browse by location, and there's hundreds if not thousands of radio stations to choose from. It takes a few seconds to start buffering the stream, but as soon as it does, it starts playing, and it'll bring up some album art or the station logo or a picture of the presenter. It's up to the station what they want to put on, so in this instance it's a picture of the presenter. You can also access Spotify through the TX-NR828. You do need to have a Spotify premium account to do this. Just the basic free account won't do it, so you've got to pay to currently have a premium account. But you can search by music, you can browse, you can look at new music. It's fairly quick. Now it's all compressed, so it's not hi-fi. It's I think it's only at 128 kilobits per second at the moment. So useful for background music, useful if you want to hear what new music's like before you buy it. But we'd always recommend that you buy the CD or some kind of HD version of the track, not compressed. Again, as with the internet radio, pretty quick to start playing, start streaming it, and then after a few seconds, you do eventually get some album art through as well. It has a favourites menu as well, which you can store favourites from all the different things in the networking and jump straight to them, so useful for the internet radio. And one feature that's currently unique really to Onkyo is its home media ability. Now this lets you share shared networked drives. So in Windows you can share network drives and browse directly. And this is the easiest way at the moment really to browse DSD files. So we're just showing it playing here. You can see also the display down the bottom. That's what the front panel looks like. It's a 2-line display, and it gives you a bit more information than on the models further down the range. You don't have to use your TV. You can navigate using the front display, or of course Onkyo's control app. But it will play DSD files, it will play FLAC 192, and you can browse them all using this home media without having to use a DLNA server, so quite useful. The DLNA is very similar, same sort of idea, but you do need a DLNA NAS drive or server, and that can be problematic with different file types. Not all NAS drives will recognise everything. Things like DSD, our NAS drive doesn't recognise, and a lot of them don't recognise FLAC or WAV files, so useful to have that home media functionality as well. We're going to show you here that with a WAV file, you can go in, choose an arm. It's pretty quick. Again, you can do this all from the front display and from the control app. And if your device supports it, it will also serve up the album art if your DLNA server. Not always the highest quality. That does depend on the NAS drive too. So this is what you get in the box of the Onkyo TXNR828. You get the remote control, of course, and a quick setup guide, and some quite useful stickers to put on all the speaker connections. The remote control, it's quite big, but it's nicely laid out, and some of those buttons as well light up depending on what you're doing, whether you're controlling the receiver or your television. You get an AM and an FM, a very, very basic FM aerial. The power cable has a detachable power cable, which is good. And these are all the little stickers that you can stick onto each channel. Helps identify if you need to move the receiver, if you move house or you move it for cleaning. It means it's a lot quicker to set up, especially if you're using banana plugs as well. You also get the Odyssey setup microphone with a very long cable, so you can place it exactly in the listening position where you can spend most of your time and set it up. And you also get the full instruction manual on a CD-ROM, because it is only a basic quick setup guide. But you can download that from Onkyo's website as well. You don't need to actually use that. So close up with the remote control your other components. You can go through different sound modes. That's where those color-coded buttons are. And then you've got your controls for your television, so you can change the input over to HDMI or do the volume if you've got a compatible TV. You can also control zones 2 and 3. Now you can also do all of this pretty much from Onkyo's control app. We're showing you their Android app. It's very similar to the Apple app. One of the bugs on this particular tablet that we're using to show you is that the volume isn't visible. You can't actually get to it. It's been like this since they launched it, so quite useless in that you can't control the volume. But it's designed for a phone, not a tablet. You have to go through multiple different menus just to do sort of basic features, but it does have the ability to control the net part of it as well. So that's probably what most people are going to use it for. You can change the inputs, but you have to scroll through all the inputs to get to them. It takes the full screen of the tablet. Fine on a phone, but we imagine most people now, with the price of tablets, are going to be using it with a tablet. So you can browse the different net services that you've got on here. You can go into Spotify, for instance. Doesn't always work first time. You sometimes have to click it again. You can browse new music. Only 4 tracks shown there for the whole screen. Annoying. It could show more. Even on a phone, it could show more than that. It's very wasteful of screen area. And just very lacking for what it could do. Also, it doesn't scale very well. All the images and things on it don't look very good on a tablet. They're clear. It's just been designed with a phone in mind. DLNA, you can browse that as well. It's still easier than using the remote control and the television, because you can turn the television off and just use your tablet directly to browse your music, but it could be so much better laid out. It will bring album art back, although you can see it's quite grainy. We don't know whether that's the NAS drive serving up a small image or this. We think it's a bit of both, because we looked at the NAS drive and it actually serves up a 500 by 500 pixel image, so shouldn't look as bad as that. You can get into the setup menu and do all that sort of thing, but it's a separate screen for each one. It's very frustrating. But there is an alternative. This is an app that's under development currently, and it's called MyV. Now, this will control the Onkyo. It's designed for a tablet. It gives you good feedback, shows you what input, what sound mode you're on. You can access that from all of the different screens, and you can switch to different inputs. It also doesn't have a slider for the volume. It has big buttons, so you can almost use it without looking at the tablet, because they're always there on the right-hand side. and there's no danger of it going up to full volume really quickly, which you can do with the slider, because you've got to hold the button down or tap it to go up the volume. You can see in the bottom right, it gives you the volume back as well. But the really interesting thing about this app, as opposed to the Onkyo one, is that it can control other devices. So it can work with set-top boxes, televisions, Blu-ray players, all in one app. You don't have to keep swapping between them. And it works with a wide range of manufacturers. So we've seen it working with Onkyo receivers, Denon receivers, Marantz receivers, Pioneer receivers, and Yamaha receivers, as well as with Panasonic televisions, Sony Blu-ray players, Panasonic Blu-ray players, and we've also had it working with Humax set-top box as well. So it can control all those things simultaneously, all in one place, and a lot neater and designed for a tablet. So on to the pros and cons for the Onkyo TXNR828 home cinema receiver. Pros: build quality, really good, as we come to expect with Onkyo at this price point. They really do put a lot of effort into making it feel like the sort of money you're spending, and it looks a lot nicer as well with a nice sort of panel hiding all the buttons behind it. We like that. We like the remote control. We think all round it's a good build quality. That's one of the pros. Another one is that it's sound quality. It's really easy to drive a wide range of speakers, and it's not bright. A lot of home cinema amps can be quite bright sounding. It's got a warm and bassy sound, but still with detail. Especially, it's got a good treble. It picks up the cymbals quite well. So it's the best of both worlds. It's not. Sometimes you only get that from a brighter amp, but it works with a wide range of speakers. It's easy to drive them. It's got enough power to drive even. If you've got big power floor standards as part of your home cinema system, then it will still drive those really well, and good music performance too. And also feature-wise, it's pretty good. It's got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in. You don't have to worry about buying those as an optional extra like you do with a lot of different ones on the market. But on the con side, it's got less features than last year's model. I suppose it's to be expected. Things go up in price, and this has stayed the same sort of price. But they have removed some of the features now that are only on the next model up, the 929. On the downside as well, the Onkyo app. I mean, it is really, really, on some tablets, absolutely useless, but it's just poor to use, especially with a tablet. But luckily, there are now things like the MyV app coming onto the market that you can use that give you better control, better feedback, and can control other things. So, yeah, it's not as good as last year's 818 in terms of features, but it retains the sound quality at this level. And there are other things coming onto the market now that have got slightly better spec, better featured. So have a look around. But we certainly don't discount the 828. It is all round a good home cinema receiver.
That's the end of our review of the Onkyo TXNR828 home cinema receiver. We hope you've enjoyed watching it. If you'd like to see more reviews, please visit our website avland.co.uk. You can also purchase this unit there.